Assignment 3.3, James Boxford continued. So now I'll be talking about state anxiety. And state anxiety is a person's immediate control of anxiety in any given situation. It is usually a temporary emotional response to a situation that is perceived to be threatening by the body. And this is similar to the flight or fight emotions that are caused by the release of adrenaline from the adrenal glands. When there is a higher level of state anxiety, there is more worry and fear during a competitive scenario. For example, using John Terry again, he took the penalty in the 2008 Champions League final. He missed and slipped. That defined the outcome of the game. He may have experienced higher levels of state anxiety due to the situation that he was in, and that may be why he slipped. So the impact upon the performance. So both parameters of anxiety can affect someone's performance. This is because state and trait anxiety both impact each other. So if there's an increased level of fear in a person's trait anxiety, then in certain situations their state anxiety is also going to increase, so that means their performance will decrease dramatically. If someone has very good trait anxiety, then they won't struggle in high pressure situations when there is more consequences if they fail. Using John Terry again, the Champions League final. If he had a higher level of trait anxiety, he would have been able to score the penalty. And this leads to a better performance, whereas someone who has high state anxiety will struggle because they have created more worry and apprehension about the situation. And this again would lead to a decreased performance. So there are many different ways of managing anxiety, and some of these are deep breathing, meditation, and mental rehearsal. These are three that I've picked out of a long list. So deep breathing helps decrease the heart rate and ensure that there is enough oxygen being delivered to the working muscles. So for example, on the starting blocks before an 100-meter sprint, you see a lot of the athletes deep breathing. This is so that there's enough oxygen getting to all the muscles that they're going to be using in their legs, arms, to power them through to win the race. Meditation. Meditation allows the body to relax and clears the mind of negative thoughts regarding performance. Meditation can usually be done before a performance. So, for example, before a high-profile cricket match, if it's a deciding game in a series that you need to win, and you could be worried about your position in the team. Somebody or the media may have said something. You may meditate, and you meditate because you want to help focus your body and clear all those negative thoughts. You can have a clear channel of thoughts. You can move into the next day, into the game, in your best mental state. Mental rehearsal. So mental rehearsal allows the performer to visualize themselves doing something before they actually do it, and this can help them overcome mental barriers they've put in place. So an example of mental rehearsal could be if the team makes it to a football cup final, they're going to imagine walking out onto the field. Although they might not be playing, they're just imagining the atmosphere that they're going to experience. So when they experience it that first time, as soon as they walk out of that tunnel, they're ready for it. They know what it is, and they know what it's going to be. However, there are some limitations to these management techniques. So not all of these techniques can be used during a performance. So, for example, the meditation and the mental rehearsal must be done before any event has occurred, and it's known as a part of the preparation stage for the performer. However, deep breathing can be done during a performance. So, say in football, if you've just made a bad tackle or someone's made a bad tackle of you, and then the ball's gone out for a throw-in, and you have high levels of trait anxiety or state anxiety because you're worried that you're going to do something bad after and your performance is going to decrease. In that natural break in play, you can deep breathe and help your body calm and relax. So biofeedback is another way of managing anxiety. However, it is very expensive and only applies for elite performers and those that can afford it due to the cost side of it, and that's why many other techniques are sometimes preferred. So, stress. Stress is a psychological state produced by perceived psychological and physiological forces. Whenever there is stress, a stressor is created. The stressor is a source of anxiety and arousal. In sport, conflict, competition, and frustration are seen as the main stressors, and long-term stress can have a negative repercussions on health. So, there are two different types of stress, and these are eustress and distress. So, eustress is a good form of stress that can give a feeling of fulfillment, and many athletes seek stressful situations because they like the challenge. For example, a player who becomes eustressed from taking a penalty would enjoy the challenge of this and would want to take more penalties. And this is different to a player that doesn't like taking penalties, that is forced to take a penalty, because that would be distress. And I'll be explaining what distress is in a moment. Distress is a negative form of stress which leads to an extreme state of anxiety or nervousness as a result of a perceived inability to meet the demand. So, the penalty kick example again. If this player has been forced into taking this penalty kick, they may not think they are good enough. And they'd be in distress because they'd be anxious and stressed out about this result. If they miss, they could lose. They could be ridiculed if they also miss as well. Causes of stress. So there are 5 factors that can cause stress, and these are internal, external, personal, occupational, and the sporting environment. So some examples of internal factors of causing stress are illness, lack of sleep, and being overly self-critical. So if you're ill either physically or mentally, you could be stressed out because you may not be able to do the things that you need to do. So you may not be able to go out with your friends all the time, or you may not be able to do things other normal people do. But then being overly self-critical can also relate to a sporting example. So, for example, many cricketers struggle when they're in a run of bad form. They begin to criticise themselves and their technique, and this can lead to a very decreased performance. And this can also cause stress because they may be dropped from the team, and then that can result in them losing a contract. So, external examples of stress could be the negative social interaction, a major life event, or work. So, if you're having many negative social interactions, so you go out with some people, but you run into people you don't like, and then there's an altercation, that's a negative social interaction, and that can cause stress upon your body because you don't want that happening next time you go out. There could be major life events which can cause stress, so e.g. a bereavement, and if you suffer a bereavement, you'll be grieving, and that can cause stress as well due to the physical need on the body. And work can also cause a lot of stress. This could be traveling to work, or just your work itself. It's not good enough for you. And personal, so stress caused from significant others, so your friends or family. If you're having disputes with your friends and your family, you're more likely to be experiencing stress. And sporting and occupational, sorry. So if you aren't enjoying your job, you're said to have a lack of job satisfaction. And this is bad because if you're doing your job, you're meant to enjoy it. And if your boss isn't very nice to you and not treating you very fairly, then you may not want to continue working there, and stress will be caused. And in the sporting environment, the importance of an event and the amount of uncertainty that would surround the event. So, for example, a final, that event is the most important event of the season for you, and you're very uncertain that you might not win. So, say the opposition had released their lineup early and they were very strong, you may be worried about that. So, the symptoms of stress upon the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is responsible for the flight or fight response. And so what happens is the blood diverts to the muscles to provide more O2. So in a 100-meter sprint, the blood would be going towards the muscles in your legs and your arms to pump yourself through. Your heart rate would increase, your breathing rate would increase, there'd be an increased heat production, increased rate of adrenaline release, increased muscle tension, your pupils would dilate, there'd be an increased metabolism and a dry mouth. So all of these symptoms are from stress. So when you're in a sporting environment, so the 100-meter sprint, before you're there, your heart rate's increasing, your breathing rate's increasing, you may start sweating. Your flight or fight response, so that's that sinking feeling in your stomach because you're worried or stressed about the event. You may feel a bit tighter in your muscles even though you've had a long, extensive warm-up. You may feel like you aren't able to continue. And the symptoms of stress are on the parasympathetic nervous system. So these help you relax after the sympathetic nervous system. So the muscles begin to relax, the metabolism decreases, digestion increases, the body temperature begins to decrease, the heart rate decreases, the pupils constrict, more saliva is produced, and breathing rate is increased. So you'd be experiencing these after an event has taken place, or these can happen before, during, but they normally happen after of a short event. And your muscles begin to relax there, you're able to use them. That would happen before. However, in something like a 100-meter sprint, your breathing rate would still be high and your heart rate would still be high and your body temperature would also be high. So these would be happening after. And stresses in sport. So there are many major stresses in sport. So competition, conflict, frustration, climate, fatigue, or injury. So your competition. So if you're in, say you get entered into the higher league, you may be more nervous about this. More stress would be created due to this higher league. And even if the coach believes that your team is capable of doing this, you may not believe it. If you're fatigued or injured, so say you become injured in the first preseason friendly, the first preseason friendly of the year, and you're out for 6 months. That's almost a whole season you've missed. You'd become very stressed and very frustrated at the fact you're not allowed to play due to the injury you sustained. And the climate, so whether it's hot or cold or rain or sun, if it's really hot and sunny, you're a lot more likely to become stressed out because you're not getting the break that you need in the sport and the chance to take on fluids and other things, and frustration. So a decision goes against you in cricket, you get given out when you weren't out, you're going to be more stressed out at the fact that you don't want that to happen next time. And conflict. So if you begin to get into an altercation on the pitch, you're going to be more stressed out because you're worried you may get sent off. So athletes are able to control their stress in different ways. So they can either deep breathe. They use deep breathing to control their increased levels of stress so they can reduce their heart rate. They mentally rehearse, so they can visualize what they're doing, so they can imagine walking out onto the running track for the first time. They keep calm. So they try and keep as calm as they can before any event. That's why you see them focused on what they're doing. So psychological factors affecting exercise. So there are many different psychological factors that can affect people in exercise environments, and these are defined in 3 models. So the health belief model, the theory of planned behavior, and the trans-theoretical model. So the health belief model. So the health belief model consists of 4 parts: the perceived barriers, the perceived benefits, the perceived severity, and the perceived susceptibility. So the perceived barriers are what barriers are impacting a certain individual from doing exercise and why. The perceived benefits are what are the benefits is this person going to get from exercise. The perceived severity is if they get a condition like heart disease or diabetes, how severe is that going to be for them? And the susceptibility is how likely they are to get it. This will be explained later with results from a survey. So the theory of planned behavior. So the theory of planned behavior has attitude, the subjective norm, and the perceived behavior of control all in one section. All of these 3 things need to be in line for the intention to occur and then the behavior to change. So the attitude could be someone's attitude towards exercise is negative, but their subjective norm could be that their friends and their family all around them exercise. So the perceived behavior control would be that it would be good for them to do exercise as they could help lose weight and other possible health benefits. So as all 3 are in line, the intention is that they begin exercising. They would want to begin exercising, and the behavior changes as they begin. Trans-theoretical model. So the trans-theoretical model consists of 6 different parts. So it begins with pre-contemplation. So if someone's pre-contemplating something, it means they're not ready to do anything. So they're not really aware, they aren't informed, and they don't have any intention to change how they're living. If they're contemplating it, it means they're starting to think about it. If they want to think about this, then they're aware that their problem exists, so they could be overweight, and they're thinking about changing it because they know that it's not a very healthy lifestyle to live. And then the preparation stage. So they're ready to take action. They're ready to change what they're doing to suit themselves. And then the action stages, they're making modifications to help them. So they could be starting exercising 3 times a week or once a week or twice a week, just something to help them improve. And the maintenance is, have they done what they said they were going to do? And have they been able to prevent a relapse from occurring? Because if they aren't able to prevent a relapse from occurring, this cycle will have to begin over again. And the termination is, how likely are they to go back to where they were before? So go back to the pre-contemplation and then have to start the cycle again.